Every time the rich lady brushes her secretary's thigh, she gives him 1 minute to grab as much money as he can from the vault. If the secretary figures out how to avoid detours, he'll have an endless stream of wealth. This is just everyday life for Korea's chaebol families. With enough money, you can do whatever you want. The Korean movie The Taste of Money pushes these boundaries even further, shattering the audience's perceptions. The secretary in the movie isn't just a tool for the chaebol wife's desires, he's also the love interest of her daughter. Meanwhile, the family patriarch and his father both have a special affection for the family's Filipino maid. The elder chairman, weakened by age, is no longer capable of action, but the current chairman fantasizes about a perfect romance with her. Now, let's take a closer look at the twisted lives of Korea's chaebol families. Young Jack, the secretary and driver for the Baek family, is one of the key figures. One day, Chairman Yoon takes him to a secret vault. The mountains of cash inside leave young Jack speechless, holding back his greed. He helps the chairman pack 2 suitcases full of cash, but as they prepare to leave, the chairman says to him, "Take some for yourself." Surprised by this generosity, young Jack grabs a stack of bills, ready to pocket it, but guilt washes over him. This money wasn't earned through his own labor, so he decides to savor the feeling of holding it before reluctantly putting it back. Later, they drive to a secret park, where they load the suitcases of cash into a politician's car. By the next day, the chairman's son is released from jail, cleared of all charges. Although they dodged the crisis, Brian, the representative from the American company, started to have doubts about the upcoming $90 billion deal. Not wanting the deal to fall through, the family matriarch, Mrs. Baek, prepares a seductive bomb for Brian. She successfully lures him, setting up hidden cameras in the bedroom, and soon has the perfect leverage over him. The next day, the chairman's son seals the deal with Brian. Together, they plan to mine copper in Uzbekistan. As a reward for his excellent work, Mrs. Baek promotes young Jack to chief secretary, entrusting him with the family's affairs. With his career on the rise, young Jack's romantic prospects take off too. The family's eldest daughter, Nami, is smitten by his good looks. She pours him a glass of 1962 Lafite, hoping to impress him with the wine's allure. But young Jack, ever professional, declines, saying he's on the clock.
이거 좋은 건데. 맛이라도 보세요.
Feeling guilty for refusing her generous gesture, he reluctantly takes a sip.
포도 좀 하세요.
Though his compliments are brief and polite, they leave a lasting impression on Nami, planting the seeds of love in her heart. The next day, Nami asked young Jack to accompany her to see her child. She casually mentioned that she was already divorced, hoping to encourage him to pursue her without hesitation. However, young Jack was fully aware of his position and knew he wasn't worthy of a romantic relationship with the chaebol heiress. That night, young Jack went to Chairman Yoon's room to discuss business matters. He knocked repeatedly, but there was no response. He then went around to the study's back door, but still, the chairman didn't answer. Left with no choice, young Jack cautiously pushed the door open, only to be utterly shocked by what he saw. Realizing the situation was more than it appeared, young Jack quickly exited the room, terrified that what he had witnessed would impact his career. But as they say, secrets don't stay hidden for long. That night, Mrs. Baek was feeling lonely and restless. In her boredom, she wandered into the secret surveillance room to check in on her husband's private moments. What she saw floored her. There, on the screen, was Eva, boldly engaging in a very intimate discussion with Chairman Yoon. Filled with rage, Mrs. Baek wanted to tear the two apart, but she restrained herself, fearing that confronting them would expose her secret habit of spying. Instead, she vented her anger on the headphones she was using, crushing them. The next morning, Mrs. Baek took advantage of Eva's upcoming vacation and planned to send her back to the Philippines for good. But Eva revealed that the chairman had already arranged for her 2 children to come to Korea for a holiday, meaning she wouldn't need to return home alone. Upon hearing this, Mrs. Baek's fury reached a boiling point. She stormed over to Eva, grabbed her by the throat, and warned her that defying her in this household would end disastrously. However, despite Mrs. Baek's threats, Eva still brought her children to Korea. Chairman Yoon personally went to the airport to greet them, but Mrs. Baek's outburst had planted seeds of doubt in his mind. He became suspicious of everyone around him, especially young Jack, who had seen everything that night.
회장님 전 아무 말도 하지 않았습니다. 네가 왜? 우리를 보호하려고?
Chairman Yoon accused young Jack of lying. In this household, Mrs. Baek wielded ultimate power, and anyone looking to make money had to curry favor with her, just as Chairman Yoon had done when he married into the family. It was only by gaining her trust that he had achieved his current status and influence. Na-mi, seeing the man she liked being blamed, immediately confronted her father. She asked why he was accusing others when he was the one at fault. She was certain that young Jack would never betray their secrets. Learning that her husband had taken the maid and her family out for a day trip sent Mrs. Baek into a fit of sobbing. Young Jack, noticing her distress, quickly handed her his handkerchief. But Mrs. Baek didn't want a simple gesture of sympathy. She craved someone to comfort her deeply wounded soul.
너는 알잖아. 얼마나 외로운지, 내가 얼마나 괴로운지.
As she vented her frustrations, young Jack felt helpless, unsure of how to respond. Suddenly, Mrs. Baek ripped open his shirt. Stunned, young Jack tried to stop her, but she lashed out at him in fury. At that moment, he felt utterly trapped, like a pawn in their twisted game. But as he thought of the vast fortune in the family vault, he decided to endure everything in silence. The next morning, Mrs. Baek woke up feeling refreshed, like she was 18 again. Young Jack, however, was drained and listless, clearly exhausted. Curious, Na-mi approached him to ask what was wrong, but Mrs. Baek quickly interrupted her. Young Jack entered Mrs. Baek's secret room, where every move Chairman Yoon made was under her surveillance. It was clear that she now saw young Jack as one of her own. During the next Baek family meeting, Mrs. Baek attempted to turn the children against their father, but to everyone's shock, Chairman Yoon publicly declared that Eva was his true love.
두려울 게 뭐가 있겠냐. 다 버리고.
The entire family was stunned. The son couldn't believe his father had taken things seriously and wasn't just fooling around. Mrs. Baek was even more devastated, unable to fathom that her husband had grown so tired of her. Listening through the surveillance equipment, young Jack was equally shocked by the chairman's choice. He never imagined that a powerful man like Chairman Yoon would forsake wealth and status for love. Just as the chairman was about to leave, Mrs. Baek decided to transfer his duties to young Jack, which immediately drew objections from her son. Facing Mrs. Baek's nurturing and trust, it would be difficult for any man to refuse, and young Jack was no exception. To secure his future wealth and power, he began distancing himself from Na-mi, leaving her confused and hurt. Soon after, Chairman Yoon packed his things and left the family home. Determined to live with Eva in the Philippines, young Jack promptly reported the chairman's actions to Mrs. Baek, who wasted no time placing her husband under strict control. She first moved all the money from the secret vault, then used her influence to restrict his passport, trapping him and Eva under her power. Chairman Yoon knew that without money, he and Eva couldn't survive. So, on the day his son signed a deal with Brian, Yoon submitted evidence of the Baek family's tax evasion to the prosecutors. His plan was to temporarily send his son to prison and elevate Na-mi to the position of company president. What Mrs. Baek didn't expect was that young Jack, during a hospital visit, discovered Eva was pregnant. This baffled Mrs. Baek. 10 years ago, she had forced her husband to get a vasectomy. Could he have reversed it secretly? If not, the baby might be the elder chairman's. Either way, the child's existence threatened her son's inheritance. Determined to eliminate this threat, Mrs. Baek enlisted her father's personal butler to arrange Eva's kidnapping. Young Jack, seeing what was unfolding, hurriedly asked the butler what was going on, but the answer left him speechless.
당신 월급쟁이지? 나도 그렇고.
That night, Eva was found drowned in the Baek family's pool. When Chairman Yoon saw her body, he dove in, frantic. Na-mi, fearing for her father, kicked off her heels and rushed to save him, but before she could act, young Jack stopped her, diving in himself and pulling Chairman Yoon safely to the shore. Young Jack then swam back, determined to rescue Eva, but Mrs. Baek stopped him, preventing any further attempts. Young Jack never expected Eva to meet such a tragic end. Mrs. Baek's ruthless and cold-hearted actions left him disgusted with these so-called rich people, but he couldn't shake the guilt of being an indirect accomplice to Eva's death. Na-mi, on the other hand, was appalled by her mother's actions. She chased after Mrs. Baek, wanting to confront her about the immorality of her behavior. However, as Na-mi followed behind, she noticed the family butler acting suspiciously. She was speaking quietly on the phone, all the while keeping a close eye on young Jack as he walked out of the house. Realizing something was wrong, Na-mi quickly pieced together the situation. As expected, no sooner had young Jack walked out the door than he was grabbed by the elder chairman's bodyguards and forced into a car. They wanted to make it clear that serving a Chable family meant protecting their interests at all costs, otherwise he'd end up like Eva, suffocated and dead. After the beating, young Jack realized he hadn't been taken far but was still inside the estate. In the villa's private theater, shaken, he returned to his room, where he found Nami waiting outside for him. Filled with remorse, young Jack confessed his wrongdoings to Nami, but she wasn't surprised. In a world driven by money and power, no one could keep their integrity intact, she explained. Nami then expressed her hope that young Jack would join her in taking control of the family's business empire. To show her sincerity, she offered to comfort his wounded heart that night, but young Jack refused, taken aback by her advance. At this point, I can't help but think, if the lead actor can't pull off this role, maybe it's time for a recast. Meanwhile, unable to cope with Eva's death, Chairman Yoon chose to end his own life. He slit his wrists in a desperate act of love. Mrs. Baek, shocked that her husband would go so far for a maid, took advantage of his last moments to force him to take the blame for everything, ensuring their son's release from prison. Nami went to the prison to pick up her younger brother, but once they were in the car, he confronted her with sharp questions. He accused her of seizing control of the company while he was gone.
제가 딱 한 가지만 말씀드릴게요. 이분 늙으신 백여사한테 퍽 해주고 여기까지 올라온 거라고요.
Young Jack, unable to hold back any longer, opened the car door, ready to teach the spoiled Chable heir a lesson. Even after the heir apologized, young Jack couldn't let it go. He had to teach the spoiled rich kid a lesson, but when the Chable son threw a sloppy mantis-style punch, it left young Jack momentarily stunned. Thankfully, Nami didn't believe her younger brother's nonsense, but young Jack couldn't bring himself to deceive Nami any longer. In a moment of catharsis, he shouted out the truth, feeling a huge weight lift off his shoulders. Finally, he could leave this Chable family without regret. Back at his place, young Jack moved aside a full-length mirror, revealing the stacks of cash he'd earned from Mrs. Baek. He took all the money and placed it in Eva's coffin, wishing for her to live a better life in the next world, free from servitude. Next, he attended Chairman Yoon's funeral, where he expressed deep remorse for his role in the chaos that had unfolded. When Mrs. Baek learned that young Jack intended to resign, she tried to convince him to stay at the company, citing his relationship with Nami. To her surprise, her daughter scoffed at the idea.
우리 두 모녀 진짜 괜찮은 거예요? 이래도 좋은 건가요?
Nami's words cut deeply, but Mrs. Baek, ever deflecting, placed all the blame on her late husband. That night, Nami gave young Jack a heartfelt embrace, hoping that even after he left, he'd remember that someone in the family had truly loved him. The next day, as per Chairman Yoon's final wish, young Jack prepared to return Eva's remains to the Philippines. Just as he was about to board the plane, Nami appeared beside him.
뭐예요? 이제 날 미행까지 하는 거예요?
Unable to contain her feelings for young Jack, she had chased him to the airport. Nami didn't want to lose the only man who shared her values. Embarrassed by the public display, young Jack pulled Nami into the airplane bathroom for privacy. What happens next? Well, let's just say you'll have to use your imagination for the rest.